I told you I'd be back, and here we are for the way, way back. This is my favorite movie. It's been my favorite movie for 3 years now. I think it came out 4 or 5 years ago. 5 years according to IMDb, but I think that I didn't see it till either doing quick head math of what time it would have been. I would have been working at Barnes & Noble at that point over the summer. So yeah, 2015. Summer of 2015 is when I'd found this. So this is coming up after only 2.5 years, I guess, of loving this movie. That's crazy. It's only been 2 years. So I fell in love with this movie as soon as I watched it. I don't know what exactly sparked my interest in it, but it blew me away 110%. It has a great cast, great writing, and I think this was the first time I really watched indie genre of film, because I mean I've seen independent films before, but this really kind of fits the lighting and the writing style of those types of films. And I'd never really, I guess outside of Rubber and Hobo with a Shotgun, but I kind of watched those because they're glorious trash indie films, and I mean if you like them more than that, that's fine. I think they're amazing, but I think they're amazing because they're terrible. Kind of like The Room. I'm getting ahead of myself in potential reviews. The point is, The Way, Way Back is incredible. To give you a general idea of how much I loved it, within the first month of seeing this movie, I watched it 20 times. I know that because I kept count, and I had friends who came over, and I would always give them the number I was on for that first month. I regret not having it at 30, honestly. I think that if I'd seen it once a day for a whole month, that would have been incredible. But there's still, with 20 days, there's definitely some back-to-back days that I'd watch that movie, and it was totally worth it. And it wasn't just me. I mean, it was just me for 20, but I'm not the only one who watched it more than once in that month period. I have a couple friends who really liked that movie too, and they still want to watch it with me to this day. There's only been a handful of films that I've introduced to them that I'd say have done that. The Way, Way Back, Fanboys. So I guess I was wrong. I've seen, well, that one's, I think it's independent, but it doesn't feel like an indie movie because I think it's the music choice. It's a lot to do with it. So Way, Way Back, Fanboys, and Dr. Horrible Sing-Along Blog are kind of the three that I introduced that really got under people's skin in a good way. And this one's definitely the more recent of the three, and we just love it. Since then, I've doubled my 20. I'm past 50. I lost count at 50. I guess I kind of figured once I've hit 50, there was really no point in continuing to count it. And I'm kind of running out of things to say before I get into spoiler territory here. So let me just give you a review for the people who are interested in watching this before I go any further. Absolute 10 out of 10. 100%. This is my idea of a perfect movie. It takes me on enough of an emotional roller coaster to feel like there was a journey. There's incredible subtlety to a lot of the performances. There are people who I recognize who are acting outside of their comfort zones. And as someone who grew up as a child of divorce, I definitely could feel amongst the children and their parents that sort of relationship that I've had with my family. So it was just really well put together, and I cannot recommend more that you see this movie. Please watch it. And now, for those of you who've seen it or who don't care, let's get into spoiler territory, shall we? Things that I want to mention. I mean, I tried taking notes, and I realized that I can't be a note taker kind of reviewer because I filled up 3 pages before I got halfway through the movie and was like, I need to stop. I need to just remember highlights and call them out. And if I need to take a break to think about it, I'll cut it because I'm not ashamed of jump cuts yet. So, here we go. Trent. First and foremost, gotta talk about Trent. As much as I want to talk about Owen, because, oh my god, Sam Rockwell, I fell in love with him with this movie. Steve Carell is Trent. Ooh. Everybody, I think, knows Steve Carell at this point, right? He's definitely become a household name for a lot of people because of The Office. I actually was first, I think, introduced to him through Bruce Almighty, and then Get Smart and Evan Almighty because I really like movies more than TV. Admittedly, I actually just watched The Office for the first time last year, and I think my review of that is going to spark some debate in my comment section, so that'll be fun to get around to in the future. But everyone knows Steve Carell as a comedy guy, or as the dad in Despicable Me, because I mean, it's so funny, but he's a voice actor there. I have nothing against voice acting. I'm trying to be a voice actor. Don't question this setup. This is for vlogging. This has nothing to do with how I voice act. Please, don't get the wrong idea about me. He's a funny guy, is what I'm trying to say. In this movie, he's not a funny guy. He plays a stepdad. Well, okay, again, as a kid who grew up as a child of divorce, my parents would date people, and if they dated them long enough, I would just call them my step-parent because it's easier than saying, oh yeah, this is my parent's partner, you know, because parent's partner is a lot of words when you could just say step-parent, you know, just two words that are much shorter in syllables. And I was a lazy kid. So anyway, even though they'd only been dating for like a year, you might as well just say that he was his stepdad. So Trent's a jerk. He's a real, not the word I want to use, but I'm trying to censor myself for the audience. He's a jerk. He calls Duncan a 3 right at the beginning. 3 out of 10. Like, that's a 30%. That's 20 below failure. Like, he really thinks very little of Duncan, and it really sets the tone. What I'm most impressed by, though, are two moments. I mean, there's a lot that he does that's great, but there's two moments that stand out extremely well for me. The first, well, actually, I'm going to start at the end. when Duncan runs off to Water Whiz to go say goodbye, and his family comes running after him to figure out what the hell's going on, Duncan. His mom and Steph, his stepsister, both look at the sign that says Employee of the Month, Pop and Lock, which is Duncan's nickname he receives from work. Trent doesn't see it. Trent doesn't see anything about it. He looks straight past it, like it's not even there, and he's just, well, he doesn't even actually look past it. He looks away from it. He never acknowledges the sign. Like, he's not drawn to where Duncan is. He's just upset to be away from his car. I think that says a lot about him. You know, it says a lot about how self-interested he is and how very, very little he cares about Duncan. The other thing is the way he says buddy. That one stands out to me so very well because, again, I had a stepdad and I had my issues with him. I don't have a stepdad well, that's not true. I have a stepdad now. I have a different stepdad. That stepdad I had issues with. This one I'm totally fine with. You're cool, man. So, my last one would call me buddy, and when somebody who's not your dad tries to call you buddy, it doesn't feel right. It just feels wrong. I don't know if it's because my stepdad and Trent had never had a son. Maybe there's something about having a son where you can say buddy and it feels right, but it just didn't from either of them, and that to me was just perfection. I don't know if that was, again, I don't know if that's a byproduct of the relationship or if that was an intentional acting choice he made, but it resonates with me every time I hear him say buddy, and I could keep going, but I want to move on to Owen. So Owen is incredible, absolutely. Sam Rockwell is so perfect, and this movie absolutely made me realize I fell in love with him as a performer. He's done a lot of parts you may know him from. He was Hammer in Iron Man 2. He's Guy from Galaxy Quest. He's the main character in Moon. Great movie. Oh my god. I want to say the film is called Mr. Right. I don't know if that's the correct title, but it's him and a Kendrick. He's an assassin who kills people, who put hits on other people, and she's a girl who just got cheated on and has a broken heart. She falls in love with him because she thinks he's funny and not really an assassin. It's actually a really good movie. Really well put together action scenes. They're not like perfect, but for a comedy action movie, they're really well put together, and their performances are excellent, and I find them adorable. And so this is the movie that it really introduced me to Sam Rockwell, because I'll admit I'd seen movies he was in. I didn't really recognize him until I saw him in this lead supporting role, I guess, because he doesn't really show up. I mean, he does show up at the beginning of the movie, but his first lines aren't till like 30 minutes in or so. Anyway, he is basically Duncan's guru. He has a very laid-back approach to life. He's very, choose your own path is a line that I think stands out very much to describe Owen. And what I love about him is, again, this draws back to my own life, where when I was in high school, I had a mentor who was 2 grades above me, that was only a year older than me. No, I wasn't held back a year. I'm an August birthday, which, at least in my state, I don't know about others, means I had the choice to go to school as a 5-year-old or as a 6-year-old. My mom says she wanted me to be the oldest in my class. I say she didn't want me to leave the nest for a year. So either way, he ended up 2 grades my senior instead of 1. But I think it worked out because I don't know if he would have been my mentor if he were only 1 grade above me. You know? So I guess that's one cool thing that turned out about it. Anyway, I looked up to him. I still look up to him. I still think that he's a very outgoing person who can just meet strangers on the street and ask them questions, things that I struggle with personally. You know, he's very much the extrovert to my introvert at times, and I appreciate that about him. And Owen's very outgoing personality, very, very fun, energetic, and serious when he realizes he needs to be. That perfectly describes my mentor. So it was really cool to see that so well put together. And there's a bunch of stuff like that. The last character I want to talk about is Joan. I mean, I could talk about, again, all of them, but we're really running along on time here, and this is just one movie review. So what I want to say about Joan is she is probably the best acted of all the characters. I don't know if it was director's choice or her to make these decisions, but she has amazing just in the moment acting. I have learned so much about my own ability to perform just watching her, because you can see her eyes constantly. When she's looking at Trent, she's happy. And when she looks over at Pam, who's dating Trent, she gets mad. But she doesn't say the mad. She looks the mad. She shows without telling, and no one in the scene ever notices. I don't know if it's because they're not supposed to notice, or if it's, again, because she was doing something even the director didn't recognize, but it honestly feels so well put together, because it's almost like a facial soliloquy where only we get to see what she's feeling because no one else seems to recognize it. And you combine the times where she's, and I mean, this happens throughout. There's when they're at dinner, when they're on the boat, she's absolutely like that. She's also got these lines that she delivers under her breath that no one responds to. Again, feeling like an aside to us as an audience where she's got something to say, but she doesn't want other people to know that she's feeling this way. It's just, oh my God, I love it so much. So yeah, Joan is really well put together. The acting and the writing are incredible. And I could go on. I could talk about how I fell in love with the music, even though most of the songs I don't think I've ever heard before this movie. I could talk about my favorite bit is actually because another one of my friends fell in love with it. The hold, just about ready to hold, and we're holding. And I'm not 100% certain which of what I'm going to be recording today is going to be next. Going to be wearing the same shirt next week, though, because I want to record a bunch of these in batches. So, yeah, I will see you all next week. Take care, everybody.